The world's oceans are the lifeblood of global commerce, but for military forces they also represent the front lines of power projection. For decades, the U.S. Navy has maintained an unparalleled presence across the world's seas, and the aircraft carrier has been at the heart of that dominance. When the USS Abraham Lincoln recently shifted from its operations in the Pacific to the Persian Gulf, it was a stark reminder of just how quickly the U.S. can shift its naval focus in response to emerging threats. As tensions with Iran continue to escalate, the deployment of the Lincoln and a growing presence of U.S. warships in the region have sent a clear message to Tehran. Yet the question remains: what happens if the situation requires more than just one carrier? Is a second carrier on the way? The USS Abraham Lincoln is one of the U.S. Navy's most formidable vessels, and its presence in the Persian Gulf is a powerful statement of U.S. resolve. As the centerpiece of the Navy's carrier strike group, it carries a massive complement of F/A-18 Hornets, F-35 Lightning II jets, E-2C Hawkeyes, and numerous helicopters, all of which provide an incredible range of capabilities. From air superiority and strike missions to surveillance and early warning, the Lincoln and its air wing represent the cutting edge of modern naval warfare. The ship, along with its support vessels, gives the U.S. Navy a mobile base that can project force anywhere, provide air support to troops on the ground, and dominate the skies above. The decision to redeploy the Lincoln from the Indo Pacific to the Middle East highlights a shift in strategic priorities for the United States. The Lincoln's original mission had been to support freedom of navigation operations and provide a visible presence in the South China Sea, a region where China's growing naval capabilities have raised concerns among the U.S. and its allies. However, the rapid rise in tensions between the United States and Iran, particularly following provocative actions by Iranian forces, necessitated a swift change in focus. With the U.S. withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, tensions have risen between Washington and Tehran. The Iranian government has repeatedly threatened to disrupt shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz, a vital choke point for global oil shipments. Additionally, Iran has continued to expand its military presence in the region, including increasing its missile and drone capabilities. In response to these provocations, the U.S. Navy has made clear its intention to maintain freedom of navigation and protect its interests, deploying the Lincoln and other assets to bolster American influence and capability in the region. At present, there are at least 10 U.S. warships deployed near Iran, including the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group. These warships include destroyers, guided missile cruisers, and submarines that enhance the flexibility of the U.S. Navy's response options. This formidable fleet has the capability to perform a range of operations, including strike missions, air defense, anti-submarine warfare, and surface warfare. The sheer firepower of this presence provides the Navy with the ability to exert influence, deter escalation, and ensure that U.S. interests in the region remain protected. While the presence of 10 U.S. warships in the region is a substantial show of force, the growing complexity of the situation has led military officials to consider the possibility of sending a second aircraft carrier to the region. Carrier strike groups provide the Navy with unrivaled air power, but their numbers are finite, and with multiple global hotspots requiring attention, the need to spread assets thin can limit their effectiveness. A second carrier in the region would further enhance the Navy's ability to respond to Iranian threats and provide the U.S. military with additional flexibility in managing a wide range of potential scenarios. In addition to the carrier's strategic value, the second carrier would reinforce deterrence. Having 2 U.S. aircraft carriers deployed in the Persian Gulf would send a powerful message to Iran, signaling that any aggression would be met with overwhelming force. The psychological impact of this dual carrier presence cannot be understated, as it would suggest that the U.S. is ready to escalate its response if necessary. Furthermore, having a second carrier would significantly increase operational capacity, allowing for continuous airstrikes, surveillance, and reconnaissance without the logistical gaps that can sometimes occur during the rotation of one carrier. The possibility of deploying a second carrier to the region would also significantly increase the Navy's surveillance capabilities. Aircraft carriers and their accompanying air wings are equipped with advanced radar and surveillance systems, including E-2C Hawkeyes and P-8 Poseidon reconnaissance planes, which are capable of tracking and engaging targets well beyond the range of traditional aircraft. These surveillance platforms are critical for providing real-time intelligence on Iranian military movements, particularly in the Persian Gulf, where the Strait of Hormuz is an important passageway for global oil shipments. Ensuring that the U.S. Navy maintains a constant watch over Iranian activities in this region is essential for protecting the flow of commerce and the safety of U.S. interests. The deployment of a second carrier would also bolster the U.S. Navy's regional partnerships. Many of the nations that share concerns about Iran's growing military capabilities, including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and others in the Gulf Cooperation Council, would see this increase in U.S. naval presence as a reassurance of U.S. commitment to regional stability. These countries rely heavily on the U.S. Navy for security and deterrence, and a second carrier would underscore that commitment, providing additional confidence in America's ability to act swiftly if required. However, the need for a second aircraft carrier must also be balanced against the reality that deploying such assets is expensive and logistically challenging. Aircraft carriers are highly resource-intensive, and having two in a single region would place significant strain on support vessels, supply chains, and personnel. Moreover, the presence of multiple aircraft carriers in one region risks the possibility of conflict escalation, especially if tensions with Iran escalate quickly. The deployment of a second carrier would only make sense if the political will exists to follow through with a sustained and strategic military presence. Another challenge the Navy faces is the changing dynamics of naval warfare. While aircraft carriers remain vital for force projection and air dominance, there are new technologies and asymmetric threats that are becoming increasingly relevant. Iran's growing missile and drone capabilities pose significant risks to the carrier strike group. In particular, anti-ship ballistic missiles and swarming drone tactics have raised concerns about the vulnerability of even the most advanced carriers. As the U.S. Navy continues to evolve its strategies for countering these emerging threats, the question becomes not only about the number of carriers but also how well these ships are equipped to defend against such new weapons. In response to these evolving threats, the U.S. Navy has developed new countermeasures, including directed energy weapons, electronic warfare systems, and improved anti-missile defense systems that are now being tested and deployed aboard U.S. carriers. These technologies are designed to protect the carriers and other high-value assets from the growing threat posed by Iran's missile capabilities and swarming tactics. The U.S. Navy's ability to adapt to these new threats will be a key factor in maintaining the superiority of its carrier strike groups. In conclusion, the U.S. Navy's presence near Iran, currently bolstered by the USS Abraham Lincoln and its strike group, is a powerful demonstration of American military strength and the strategic importance of naval power in the region. While the possibility of a second aircraft carrier deploying to the region may seem like a natural next step in the face of growing Iranian threats, the Navy must balance this with the need to maintain a global force presence and adapt to emerging threats. Whether or not a second carrier is ultimately deployed, the message remains clear. The U.S. Navy is ready to meet any challenge in the Persian Gulf and beyond, ensuring the safety of American interests and the stability of global trade routes.